we open ourselves to have those intuitive hits, those insights, and to start to receive and bring what is formless into form.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Food Matters podcast, your home for nutrition, health, and wellness education. My name is Laurentine. I am a filmmaker and a nutritionist and the founder of foodmatters.com, and I'm here to hold your hand on this journey to optimum health, transformation, and emotional healing. Hello, Food Matters family, and thank you so much for joining us for another epic podcast. I'm joined here today with a dear friend of mine who I've been following closely, Meredith Rom, and she is from a beautiful company called Rising Women. And the premise of her work is to encourage women to really step into their divine alignment, into their purpose work, so that we can all really tap into the divine feminine. And she's really big on experiences, especially women's circles and gatherings, where it allows us women to get together and share our true selves. And her work around the Priestess Arise has allowed me to really step into my feminine essence and allow me to delve deeper into the meaning of High Priestess and Priestess and who we have been perhaps in previous lives and past lives, and allowing all these Akashic records to come up and in our state of remembering, right? And so I personally have gone through a lot of activations in the last couple of years, and it's been very helpful to be able to connect with beautiful women and souls like Meredith Rom, to allow me to shed some light on what these activations all mean, especially now coming into the Aquarius age, and especially now that women are getting a deeper and stronger voice in our community. So I wanted to bring her on into this beautiful podcast to allow us to all connect with her work, and for us Food Matters family who are tuning in from all over the world to be able to also understand more about perhaps activations that you may be experiencing, and perhaps things that you may be going through where right now it seems like chaos and turmoil and you have no idea what this is meaning, but that we as a group of women gathering together can shine some light on direction and how we can navigate through these turbulent times. So I'm joined here with Meredith Rom, and thank you so much for being here, Meredith. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing really well today. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, well, thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit more about your work and what you do and what you stand for, so that we can all become a little bit more familiar with your practice.
Of course. Well, I actually keep this little note on my desk, and it is just a reminder to me every time I sit down to do this work. But it's really all about women coming into their power and their belief in themselves, their self-worth, and really allowing their voice to become a beacon of light, of just what they are here to shine, to allow themselves to be seen, to allow themselves to share and to lead and to contribute in all the ways that they're meant to, and to help others awaken in their journey. To really nurture, care for themselves, and to believe in themselves in a way of really becoming that frequency to help uplift others. And so that comes in many forms. I do have a program that I guide women in called The Way of the Priestess. And that's all about really stepping into the embodiment of our highest selves. And a lot of these women feel called to serve and give back and to create change in the world and in their communities. And often they're really highly sensitive and they really thrive in communities where they feel safe and where they feel supported. So I create those communities for women to really, light up and to believe in themselves and to take those steps forward. I also work with people one-on-one, and a lot of the one-on-one work that has been coming up in the last few years has been using EFT tapping. So looking at limiting beliefs and when did I decide that my voice doesn't matter? Or when did I decide that I'm not worthy of taking this step or doing this next, stepping into this dream? And then really looking at uncovering and healing those limiting beliefs wherever they may have come from, sometimes from childhood, sometimes even from past lives, and to work on a more somatic level to rewire what is there. I also teach yoga in person in my community here in Northern California. And most recently, I became a mother. So that is a big part of my life right now. And then, of course, the podcast, Rising Women Leaders. I also interview women and hear the background of how they came to be where they are, how they face their fears, and what ways they're leading in their lives. So that's a little snapshot of life right now.
That's so beautiful. Well, in our Food Matters community and through our Food Matters website, we stand for helping the populace understand more about healing through food and cleansing and understanding more about where our food comes from. But with a lot of my personal work as well and my coaching work and my clients, I see that there's definitely an important step to look after our health, to look after our bodies, to clean our bodies. But in so many times, in so many areas of a lot of my clients' life, I find it's not just about food alone. It's not just about eating healthier. It's not just about cleansing our diet. It's so much related to our belief systems. And healing can really only take place once we start to believe that we can heal, that we can start to understand more about the process of allowing certain destroying belief systems that are destroying us, to let them go, right? So I would love you to talk a little bit more about the ways that our limiting beliefs can be holding us back from perhaps healing or finding the love of our life or from creating abundance in our lives. I'd love you to shine some light on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that food also is often a gateway for people into deeper spiritual healing because it's our bodies they are talking to us all the time. And so when we have disease, when we have symptoms, a lot of times, and for me in my life, it was my body trying to tell me something's out of alignment in your life. And when we do that deeper work, sometimes it's food, sometimes it's yoga, sometimes it's like that gateway into this whole world of like, wait a second, what am I doing? For me, it was living in New York City and feeling completely drained and exhausted and oversensitive to all the energies around me and starting to go down a path where I was drinking coffee and eating things that were not nourishing for my body and lots of sugar. And I started developing symptoms that was, for me, it was acne, constipation, just gut problems, things like that, that really opened me into like, I want to eat a cleaner diet. What does that even mean? Started researching online. And it started to open me as I did cleansing. It opened me up to new teachers, new ways of thinking. It was like one thing led to the next. And suddenly I was like on a full blown spiritual path and following my intuition to California and starting my own business eventually. But when it comes to limiting beliefs and, for food comes up a lot too in the work I do with people around EFT tapping or body image. Um, Someone might come in, let's say, with an issue around weight or wanting to lose weight. And we'll say, okay, well, why is that a problem for you in your life? What's been going on here? For everyone, it's going to be different. But for some people, they might say something like, I really need to lose weight because of X, Y, and Z. And suddenly we're starting to do the tapping and it's coming out this whole relationship with their mother who said something when they were a little child about, how they were in their body or commented on their body, and suddenly it's like ingrained in them and their cells, and they didn't even maybe realize that this was where it was all stemming from. So we're able to like identify some of those roots of like, where are these limiting beliefs stemming from? Sometimes it's ancestral. Maybe it's not that anyone ever said something to that person as a child, but they just saw it. They saw their mom or their dad treating food in a certain way, and they picked up this belief that I can't, I can't nourish myself, or I don't want to, to say I need to restrict, or whatever that is for them. And I feel like that can get passed down in our ancestry. And so a lot of times I'll be working with someone and we'll uncover a memory or one of these roots of something in our family. And I'll guide them into a place to close their eyes and actually connect with their younger self, like their inner child. We'll imagine stepping into that scene, traveling into that memory, holding the hand of that child, asking them questions, finding out more, and then using tapping. So for anyone that's not familiar with tapping, it's we tap on these points on the body, and we're actually activating these little meridian lines. And it's a way of speaking to the amygdala, the part of the brain that is trained to go into fight or flight. And it's the part of the brain that doesn't quite understand rational thoughts. So you might be familiar with affirmations, and you might be saying affirmations every day of, I love my body, I love myself, I am open to receive the abundant gifts of the universe, like whatever is those affirmations for you. But then we don't necessarily see things changing in our life, because a lot of times when we're saying affirmations, there's a tail ender, which is the subconscious voice that's like, yeah, right. Like, yeah, right. You're gonna, receive the abundance of the universe, or yeah, right. Who are you to think that? And we're actually manifesting from that voice, from those underlying subconscious beliefs, rather than what we're saying rationally out loud. So as we start to use the tapping, it accesses the part of the brain that is connected more to the subconscious, which is that amygdala, that fight or fight place, that we can start to come into a state of relaxation, releasing stress, releasing our negative imprints, and our body comes into a state of safety and acceptance, where some of those deeper parts of ourselves, those inner voices, the inner critic, can come to the surface to be voiced and to be healed. And so many times I'll do a session with a client and they're like, whoa, I didn't even know that was why this was happening. Like, I had a client recently, we were working on her relationship to money. And she was like, I'm able to receive money, but I'm not able to save money. Anytime money comes in, it goes out. It's like she spends, and she wanted to work on her relationship to creating wealth and saving and abundance in that way. And we were tapping on it, and about halfway through, like some tears were coming up, and she hadn't even had this awareness, but when she was growing up, her mom was always constantly saving money to the point of depriving her and the family of what they really needed and wanted. And it was like, that was totally not, it was like blinders were on. She didn't see that. And suddenly she was like, oh my God, I was doing exactly the opposite of what my mom was doing, because I created this belief that I will never become my mother. I will never deprive my child from what they need. I will never deprive our family. But she was doing it to a point of extreme where she wasn't even able to hold on to money at all. And so she had to forgive her mom for having this way of living and being, and see like, oh, okay, I can start to understand why you may have done that, why you needed to save, why things were scarce in your childhood. And so you felt like you didn't have enough. And once she was able to forgive and to feel a sense of alignment and love again in that relationship around this topic, she was able to say, like, of course I can save, and of course I can hold on to money, because I'm not becoming this awful, evil part of my mom that I didn't want to become. There's actually some wisdom here. And so it's something like that that we can hold in the subconscious, that we're not even aware that we're doing it. And oftentimes EFT will just bring it to light and to the surface. And when I'm working with a client, a lot of the times it's almost like channeling. Like I don't know exactly where it's coming from, but I'm guiding them into these statements, and they're suddenly like, oh, and linking the connections and the dots. And
Yes.
yeah,
I love this work too. It's been personally, I've been studying a lot of EFT myself, and it's like hypnotherapy for our
mm-hmm.
own self and getting closer to our subconscious, where we can really tap into these beliefs that we may have set in childhood, or that may have come from our parents, or may have come from those that have been our main caregivers. And you're right. So often we don't realize that we may be operating out of this. It's like an overriding thought. Like you may not actually be aware of that is happening, but it's even, it's so deep. And like you said, it could be ancestral, it could be past lives. So it's really important to be able to delve deeper into this thought
Yeah,
process. So it's
yeah,
beautiful that the way you explained that. Thank you.
yeah. And I'll add one more piece is that I believe that we have come here to heal. We've come here to give and to serve, but we've also come here to heal those parts of ourselves that don't feel whole. And so
Mm,
we're using this earth plane as a way to attract experiences and people that are going to bring us right to our trigger, right to our edge, so that we can suddenly bring to light the places that are ready for healing and ready for growth.
mm. And how is it what so often I hear my spiritual friends say, if you don't heal it with this experience or this partner, then you'll end up having that same experience again with another partner until you finally understand the lesson and you move on to a higher, almost vibrational frequency.
Mm.
Does that hold true for your teachings as well?
I think it's definitely possible. I have seen that a lot where people are continuing to attract the same relationship or get into the same habit or pattern again and again. And it's like, oh, why is this happening? And I think it's often rooted in childhood, like something that happened. Um, I also think, in particular, something that with a lot of women I work with, there is often a fear around being seen, using their voice, especially if they're creating a business that's really important to them. How do they get out? Even sometimes posting on social media will be like all this fear will come up for them. And so, something like that, I think, often is related to maybe past lives. The energy of the witch wound, of just like maybe even women in our ancestry or in our family, it literally was not safe for many years to be seen as a powerful woman, to share our voice. And so sometimes we do like keep facing up against the same challenge or fear, because it is wanting to be healed. And I think with the awareness, the first step is always awareness. We just bring it to light that, oh, this is the pattern that I'm in again, or this is the person I've attracted into my life again. Um, and to have compassion for ourselves and to feel all the feelings related to that. Oh, of course, this is happening again. I'm so upset. Of course, like feel that, love yourself for that, have compassion for that. And it can be really helpful to work with a guide or to have some outside reflection and support around really like fine tuning and changing that habit and changing that pattern. And sometimes it takes time. There's this Dharma story that I love. It's um, I walk down the street, I fall into a hole, I'm stuck in the hole. And then it's like the next time you walk down the street, you see the hole, but you still fall in. And then the third time you decide to, oh, you decide to walk down a different street, I think is the way it goes. Yeah. So it's like you still are seeing the habit or the pattern sometimes, and you still fall into it. But the difference is that you're seeing it. You're seeing what you're doing. You're able to have a little bit of an outside perspective, and that is progress. That's something to celebrate. And then I think as we have the awareness, we start to uncover where this may have originated. Is this in relationship to my dad or to my mom or to someone, a sibling growing up? Start to heal those original imprints of where this may have started. And it becomes much more easeful to make different choices.
Yeah, that's so important as well because, from a perspective of dis-ease, sometimes we can be so ingrained and keep falling into that hole, and
Yeah.
we keep seeing the hole, and we'll just keep going into that hole, whether it's with overeating or addictions or certain types of food habits that we may know are not necessarily going to serve us, yet we still keep going for them because we have formed a habit, we've formed a relationship with that way of perhaps eating and looking after ourselves or destruction, and so it's really about sitting in that, perhaps that pain or that suffering, and really delving deeper into where is this coming from, and really asking ourselves, what are we experiencing? Like I always do with my clients, I do a body scan, and it's really powerful because we actually allow ourselves to go, no, we are our best nutritionist. We are our best doctor. We are our best healer. Because if we actually intuitively tune in into our body and we can feel into where our body is feeling weak or pain, and then ask that pain, what is it here to tell us? Like, what are you here to teach me today? And then, even go deeper into that. And like, where does this remind us of? Perhaps from an experience of our past or an experience that we may have suffered a traumatic time or in our lives, but we never really had time to go deeper into. So the experience of actually talking to our bodies and delving deeper into our, like I think you called it somatic healing. This is becoming a new form of understanding ourselves and intuitive healing. I'd
Mhm.
love you to shine a little bit more light on how people can do more of that perhaps themselves.
Mm. Somatic healing or EFT tapping or
Yeah, how can we do
um,
that ourselves rather than feel like we need an outside person to heal us? Or, sometimes I find people always giving their power away when they believe that they don't necessarily have the capacity to do it themselves.
right. Well, I think there is a level of, yeah, absolutely being self healing and being able to be our own guides in this way. If I were to think of just like a tip or a little meditation that someone could do, like you said, to tune into where you feel it in your body and to really go into the feeling of it. So let's say you're feeling an emotion, but it's also somewhere stuck in the body, to really close the eyes, tune in, and to be with that feeling, to breathe into it, to ask it, or to notice, is there a color? Is there, is it kind of stuck feeling? Is it moving? Is it light? Is it heavy? Get into the feeling of it. And from there, ask yourself or ask your body. Sometimes I do this. You can just tap on the bottom of the collarbones, close the eyes, and just say, body, when was the first time I felt this way? And often there will be a picture, like we'll feel something or sense something. Maybe we don't see a picture clearly, but we sense ourselves of like 2 or 3 years old. And a lot of these imprints come from the first 6 years of life. And when we have a picture, I would just invite you to imagine holding their hand, to breathe with it, and to ask them, what are you feeling? What did you decide about yourself or the world at this time? And so this is just starting to open up a dialogue and get some deeper awareness around what might have been a belief formed at this time, what might have been happening, what would you have been feeling. If the people listening are familiar with the tapping points, they're welcome to use tapping as a self-healing tool. There are lots of YouTube videos about this. Um, and basically, you start on the edge of the hand, and you can say this to yourself, tapping with one hand on the karate chop point, we call it, on the edge of the hand. Um, Even though I'm feeling, and name the feeling, I still deeply love and completely accept myself. And sometimes just bringing in that wash of love and acceptance can be really powerful. And then we tap on the top of the head. I do this now when I feel anxiety or when I have just like a stress moment. I'll start tapping on my eyebrows, on the edge of the eye, going through the cheekbones. And you can just start to say the feelings. One of the most important things with tapping is to give yourself validation, to allow yourself to feel the way you feel, and to say, actually, I'm feeling the X, Y, and Z. I allow myself to feel this now. It's safe for me to feel this now. I'm open to going into this feeling now. So, a lot of the times we push those feelings away and we want to run away from them. They're too big. We don't want to go there. But the tapping helps make it a little more safe because it's down regulating the amygdala response as we start to say and feel these emotions. Now, so that's all self healing. And I also will add, when we do work with a guide in this kind of way, like the way I work with clients, there is an added component sometimes of having someone reflect to you that love and that compassion and that space holding that can be so deeply healing for many people. So I think there are a lot of people as well out there who say, I can do it myself. I don't need to invest in myself. And for those people that maybe shy away from that, it's like, yeah, maybe treat yourself to a session and see what happens and open your heart to receiving support, because that's really powerful too.
Mm, so well said. Thank you. And just a topic from your website comes up a lot, and it's a beautiful course as well that you offer. And the priestess archetype. Can you explain a little bit more about what this is and how we can recognize that in ourselves?
Yeah. Well, it's really beautiful because I feel like a lot of women are finding my work right now just from Googling and searching about the priestess. And I feel like there's this great remembrance happening for a lot of women right now of where they hear that word and they don't really know what it means, but something inside of them feels like a yes, like a resonance. What is that? I want to know more. And so I think of the priestess as first and foremost a person, a being, a woman who is here to serve at her full potential, to be of service to others awakening on a spiritual path. And there are many different ways that's going to look. I tell the women in my program, some of you are going to go out there and lead women's circles and hold ritual and space and all of this. And some of you are literally just going to be in your practices and becoming this frequency that is literally helping our whole planet, helping this ascension process that a lot of us are going through, that Earth herself is going through. And it might be as simple as checking out at the grocery store and giving that smile to someone and emanating that love, that embodiment of love. Um, and that too is really valuable and really needed. And so I also see the priestess as she's the vessel. She is one who is connecting. She's the bridge between heaven and earth. She is taking care of her body, attuning to her practices. She's often very intuitive, highly sensitive, because she is opening to receive divine guidance and wisdom. And when we take care of this vessel, this body, we open ourselves to have those intuitive hits, those insights, and to start to receive and bring what is formless into form. And so that I really see as the embodiment, the archetype of the priestess. She is here to serve, she's here to become this embodiment of love. And there are many different ways that we can be a priestess in this life, but most of the time we feel an affinity to the moon, to herbs, to being connected to nature, to slowing down. And I feel like there is this change and awakening happening on the planet right now where we've been in so much of a patriarchal, masculine driven productivity at no end type of society. And there is this essence of the feminine that is coming forth and is ultimately meant to be in union with the masculine. And so, as we bring more and more of this priestess embodiment into our life, we are literally becoming and healing on this individual level the parts of ourselves that have been pushing and forcing and making ourselves produce and be these content creators and all of that. It's not how we're meant to be. It's not the way nature was designed. There are seasons, there are times for going inward and resting and taking care of ourselves and not being out in the world. And it's so interesting because I just went through this portal of new motherhood, and my daughter is now 7 months, and I think we had to reschedule this interview 3 times because I was just like in the portal of like that newness and that kind of dark place of being in a metamorphosis and like not really knowing who I was anymore. And I needed to give it space before I could really come out and shine and to be more in the sharing again. So there are those seasons of our life that we can honor and, yeah, take time to really allow that feminine essence to take more of a forefront in our life.
Oh, congratulations. And I love the way that you explained these activations that are happening right now. I feel that a lot of us women are receiving these different types of experiences. Like you say, they either have a burnout or they have something that happens in their lives where it really just pushes them to a place where they can't take it any longer. They can't live with this type of pushing and forcing and people pleasing and living in this I would say masculine and male dominated energies. And it gets to a stage where they just want to cocoon. And for me, that was moving to a really small island in the Pacific called Vanuatu. And it's a place where I grew up. And I grew up here living off the land and eating with my hands, lup lup, like they call it. It's the local food that's made out of manioc starch and spinach leaves. And it was a time where, as a child, I was very free and very wild. And there was a period in my life when I realized I need to go back to that me, that version of me. And now I live in this beautiful place and I grow my own vegetables and we have a view over the ocean. And it's like, it's so nourishing to be able to go and cocoon in a place where you feel safe in your body and when you feel like you're enveloping yourself. And I feel like I really needed to do that. Like I was going too much forward thinking, too much living off scheduled day to day. Everything was pre planned. There was no more impulsiveness. There was no more really feeling alive. And so I think a lot of us right now are perhaps being called to experience this and whatever form or, like you said, whatever shape it may take. Like, for example, with you going through uh, an experience of motherhood and allowing yourself time to come out of that and not stressing about, hey, the world needs me right now and I need to get back on there and I need to get back on that train, but really allowing yourself to sit with that and to sit with the beauty of, like you said, the metamorphoses of women that are going through childbirth. And I can hear your baby crying. And So, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey and how you experienced this motherhood and how you have come out of feeling perhaps stressed and overwhelmed, and how we can all deal with these energies of motherhood?
Hmm. Yeah, well, I still feel very new, but I have gained some wisdom even in this short amount of time. But yeah, so my daughter was born in March, and we're recording this now in October. So I wasn't sure exactly what it would be like, how much time I would need. I knew I wanted to continue work because I love this work that I do on with women and with clients and with yoga, and but I also knew like I didn't want to rush it and I wanted to have space, and so I thought that it might be around 6 months or so that I would take with my daughter, and but there's definitely those voices that I think are really ingrained and conditioned in us that, oh, well, I can do more. Like, I can add another thing to the calendar, or I can do that. And there was also a part of me that was like, kind of holding on and being like, no, I don't really want to let go of this old identity and to allow everything to fall away for some time. And so I remember thinking, after the first, 2 months or so, thinking like, wow, I really want to start doing my work again. And there was both a feeling of devotion and wanting to go back to it, but a little bit of this fear voice, I think, of, well, what if people forget about you? Or what if, what's going to happen? Or what's going to happen when you run out of the savings you set aside, for this time? Or just maybe it's time to those voices that start speeding you up, which I think really is the conditioning that we have around productivity. And, it's just so uncommon that we as a culture really take time to rest or to nourish or to slow down. And I was imagining, like, well, maybe at 3 months I start doing some classes again and start teaching. And I remember right around that time, because it was my first time going through new motherhood, my daughter, we had finally gotten into a rhythm with sleep. And then she went through this 3-4 month sleep regression. And so suddenly I was waking up like every hour to 2 hours the whole night. And it was like I had already started to put things on my calendar and seeing clients again. And I started having this anxiety come up of like, oh my God, I don't think I can do both. I don't, I can't like care for my daughter and be up all night and hold space for clients. It was like overload. And I remember trying to do that, I think, for about a week, and then was like, okay, I need to make a shift. And it was hard for me to do that and to have to cancel things and push things back. And um, but I allowed myself the space to grieve. I feel like it was really important for me to go through this identity shift and to allow there to be that total abyss of like, I don't know when I'm going to be ready, and to just allow it to be empty space. And that was actually when I really started to be fully present with my daughter and to really see the gifts of this time. And everyone was telling me like, oh, it goes by so fast, it goes by so fast. And and now I'm starting to see it. Now she's 7 months and I'm like looking at my phone from 3 months ago and like, oh my God, she was so little, and it does change so fast. So I'm so glad that I took that space for myself. Yeah, when she was 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 months, to just be present with her. And even when I did start having childcare and more support, I realized like, wow, I'm actually like need to fill up my cup. I can't dive right back into holding space for a lot of people right away. And I took this month really to like go to the spa and get a massage and start going to yoga classes again and doing some things for myself, and snaps and sleeping and all the things of just like filling back my cup. And I feel like I'm just now getting to that point of like feeling that overflowing. And when I'm in that overflow place, I have more to give. I can show up at my fullest with a client or with a podcast interview, and with the work I want to be doing. And of course, this is what I teach. I have to be the embodiment of self-care and just like letting, it be okay to slow down and to trust in these seasons of when it's time to go and to be seen and to share and to be bright. I use the metaphor of the rose a lot. The rose is not afraid when she goes into that dormant phase in winter. She loses all of her blossoms. Often we cut back the roses, and there's a time of just dormancy. And there's nothing in the rose that is saying, like, oh, will I ever blossom again? Will I ever see that time? It's like, no, there's total trust in the cycles of time and nature. And in that trust, of course, she's able to grow her roots down deep and to be nourished and then to grow strong. And when it's time to start to blossom again. So that was a real lesson for me of patience and presence and enjoying the moment and letting it be okay to push things back and to nourish and yeah, and then to come back from a place of fullness. So I know there's, probably a lot of moms out there who are like, how can I begin to nourish? Because it can be very depleting, especially when there's like sleep deprivation and all of that. So there are little things we can do. And as little as I had a friend who, she leads this postpartum group, and us new mothers come together, and we have a sharing circle, and the babies get to play. And she says, when you go to the bathroom, there's a little basket, and there's a hydrosol, there's some affirmation cards, just take an extra minute for yourself to just breathe it in, to receive, to open yourself back up to self-care, to really feel that. And so there are little ways we can bring this into our life. And it is my wish, for mothers and for all women and all people to feel like there is enough space, that they are worthy, that they can take this time for themselves, and think of what that's going to imprint on our children and these new generations coming in to really shift the culture from starting in the home.
Yes. That's really beautiful. And it's also a nice way to just visualize you just be cocooning, there for your baby. And a lot of times in our culture, we're not able to do this because we're perhaps, with our work contracts, we have to go back to work straight away, or we don't have enough leave or time to be able to shine with ourselves and our children. So it's for a lot of us, it may not be as easy as, oh, well, I just want this. I feel this, I'm just going to do it. But at the same time, it's when you put it out there, when you put it out to the weave, and it's allowing this emotion to unfold into our lives and saying, yeah, we are here to do our best, to stand up for ourselves and to really feel into these moments of, I need more support. I need more time. I need more space. So I'm really honoring that. So really
Yeah.
proud of you. And I just wanted to, as we come to the conclusion of this podcast, wanted to understand more of how we can delve deeper into your work and how we can be, how we can connect more with you and your work.
Yeah, thank you for asking. The podcast that I have is a great place to start. It's a wonderful resource. It's called Rising Women Leaders. So you can find that in all the places podcasts are available. And feel free to dive into those conversations. I share about my daughter's birth story on there, which is really powerful. And there's some, just beautiful women that I've gotten to interview over the years. And also our website. So my website, meredithrom.com, risingwomanleaders.com. That's a great place to just dive into the resources available. And I am just starting to connect with women to lead a next round of the Way of the Priestess program. So if this episode comes out before December 15th. That's when we're going to be beginning. And I'm really excited for this new cohort of women that are joining and feeling that call to be on an initiation path and to come together in sisterhood and community and to learn and to just open to living life at as their highest selves. So we need all of us in whatever ways that we can give back. And I'm happy to be of support if it resonates with anyone to just, send me a message. And I'm always here to offer support and resources. So thank you so much.
Beautiful. Well, it's been such a pleasure having you here on the Food Matters podcast. And I love your work. I'm so proud of you. And I think it's so necessary, especially now, today. So, with all our love from the Food Matters community, good job. And thank you so much for being on here today.